But so today we're going to be looking at how can we take PowerPoint slides and go from, a PowerPoint deck with notes and quickly create a facilitator guide from that. So my name's Pat Michaels. I'm the Chief Learning Mechanic here at Great Circle Learning, and I'm going to demonstrate one of our pieces of software called Leader Guide Pro. I know some of the people in attendance today use it, but maybe don't use all the features. And there's others that, are either watching this live or going to be watching the recording of this and may want to, learn a little bit more about it and see what it can do for them. So today we're going to dig into a few items. And again, I'm going to try these showcases. I'd like to try to keep them to about 20, 25 minutes. That's the goal, right? Obviously, we're all busy and we've got stuff to do, so I want to make be cognizant of your time and get you back to what you need to be doing or want to be doing, hopefully. But so we're going to extremely high level, like 100,000 feet facilitator guide. We're going to kind of talk about that for just a brief moment today. Then we're actually I'm going to show you how we can build it out, in 5 minutes or less. I'm going to cross my fingers on that one. Then we're going to talk about some table of contents, because actually this whole process, this is going to be the one that's going to take the most, or that may take the most amount of time in this. After that, talk a little bit about layouts and customizations that are going to be available to you so you can really dial in what you're looking to do within the software. And then how do we work within the notes? And that's that chunking out slides and notes. And I did say we're going to have a prize drawing. The last few haven't, I didn't like the whole process of, you guys don't see the whole who's being selected. So I've broken out and I went into my kids' games and, we're not playing bingo, but I got the little bingo roller. So there's a little bit more showmanship for it today. But so high level, let's talk about this facilitator guide, right? And the idea here is I want you guys to be using facilitator guides that are going to drive consistency across multiple locations, multiple facilitators, multiple times it's being taught, while also meeting both needs both roles of a facilitator guide. One, that it's that in-the-moment reference aid, right? Say this, do this, ask this, show this slide, all of those type of things. But it's also a study guide. How do we make sure that whatever needs to happen, if I'm leading it or you're leading it, everyone's got all the same information? So high level, that's kind of where we come from in building guidebooks. So how do we get to a guidebook looking like this? And I would be, again, the worst weatherman. But how can we get to something like this, which is what Leader Guide Pro is going to help us build out, versus teaching directly from a PowerPoint, your slides and your notes, right? And obviously there's different iteration, right? Some people just don't do slides and notes. Maybe they create their own. But what's simpler? What's going to make it so that I can be talking to the class, to the camera, and then be back, look down, get the information, and be back up into it, and know exactly what we're going to do. I mean, there's lots of pieces that go with these, and these showcases, and some of our other, our blogs, all of these things. We're trying to build these out so you get the components as we go along. But that's the main point: is how do we get something that's easy to deliver, also easy to develop, as quickly as possible, right? I don't like the term rapid development because it makes you seem like you're dropping stuff out. But how can we build that as quickly and efficiently as possible? And Leader Guide Pro is truly the only way to do so. All right, so we're now going to actually dive into creating this in 5 minutes. So, right here, just jumped over to my desktop. Let me get the cursor so you can actually see there's my cursor moving around. Beneath me on the side of the screen, you'll see that there's a timer that's currently at 0. And I'm also gonna, at the same time, there's my phone, just so, it's not like there's smoke and mirrors and it's like the Wizard of Oz, someone, behind the curtain. So I'm gonna start this up, when I'll start it on the screen, I'll start on my phone. I can't do them simultaneously. I only have, 2 hands. But just to show you, I have a PowerPoint that's currently set up. It's got some slides, it has some notes. And Leader Guide Pro is an add-in to Microsoft Word. And I'll talk about some of the stuff as we go, but keep in mind, some of the dialog boxes I'm going to proceed through as if I was an everyday user of it, obviously, which I am. I'll explain a little bit as we go, but we're going to jump into some of these the description of the dialog boxes after the fact, because again, I'm on a time limit here. But then also anybody who gets the software, there is the complimentary new user orientation, some of the additional training options that are out there, that we would go through all of this in depth. All right, so with that being said, let's start this off. And so I'm going to start the timer. So we should start seeing that ticking. On my phone, I'm going to start that. So we've got that ticking, and we're on the clock. So when I want to build out a guidebook in Leader Guide Pro, obviously I'm in Microsoft Word. And so on the ribbon, I'm going to come over to the Start section. I'm going to click on the blank document, which is Start a New Guidebook. And I get a series of dialog boxes helping me through this whole process. And again, I'm not going to go into depth on this, but things like I'm capturing the name of the program. So we'll call this slides. We'll do PowerPoint slides to guide. That's what we're going to call it. There's a place where you can do a course ID. Maybe this is capturing, your LMS number or some sort of course versioning. We have choices about building facilitator and participant guides. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more in another portion of this event. But once I filled it out the way I want it, I'd click OK to start building it out. And what you're going to start seeing is Leader Guide Pro starts taking all the individual templates that are part of the collection, and again, I'll talk about that in a moment, start stitching those all together to build out our guidebook. We're going to get prompted here in a moment to save. Big thing on saving, it is in your environment, so we don't have access to anything unless you choose to share it with us. There's a few more of the templates that are being applied, and we're going to come to a proverbial fork in the road in a moment with a dialog box that's going to say, are you ready to add images to your document now? Which we see here. So if I say yes, I can bring in from PowerPoints, I can bring in from Apple Keynote slides, I could bring in a well-organized folder full of pictures. If I say no, I could basically start from a shell document. Again, some of these I'm just going to go through and make my choices on here. This is one we're going to talk about in a little bit. This dialog box is showing us all the different PowerPoints that are currently open, so I can just choose it out of the list. If I didn't have it, I could click cancel, and then I could then proceed through, but I'm just going to click OK. And what we see here is a dialog box showing us how we can build out our table of contents. This is the one that's going to take the most amount of time in this whole process. So I went the test kitchen or the cooking show method. I've kind of already built this out as an example. But in that table of contents section, we're going to dive into this a little bit after the fact. And lastly, we have some choices about when we convert our PowerPoints into images, quality, picture format. Are we bringing over our slides and our notes, or just one or the other? And we have some other options here. But again, I'm just going to choose the defaults at the moment. And we're going to see Leader Guide Pro layer everything in. It starts, based off all the choices we made previously, it imports all those slides and it imports all those notes. And when it's done, we'll get a message here that says action completed successfully. So I'm going to stop both of those. So if you can see below, 3 minutes and 19 seconds with me talking a whole bunch through the process, we're able to start the process of building out this shell document, or building out our facilitator guide, layering it into the shell document. So 3:19 there. On my phone, 3 minutes, 17 seconds. I mean, there are some things that we would, that will come up that would determine how quickly this is. Obviously, I used a small PowerPoint deck, right? It had 9 slides, right? So obviously, you're probably building in from a bigger deck from that. So that's going to take time, right? When's the last time you restarted your computer, right? How many other things are you running? Are you doing a Teams meeting? right? Are you at the same time doing the Teams meeting, recording in another session, right? There's all these different factors that could come into play, but the underlying factor is to go from your PowerPoints into your PowerPoints and notes into a guidebook takes very little time. So let's see what generated out in that 3 minutes and 19 seconds. So one of the, we got in here, let me give you a kind of a cleaner view. We get a cover page, and a lot of these items that we're going to see, these are all templates, which we'll talk briefly about in a moment. But we've got a acknowledgements page. It's really your inside front cover. Table of contents, right? I told you there's a way to build this out, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. So as we bring in our slides, we can have this table of contents built out. And then there's pages. Because this is a facilitator guide, we set it up. We've got an introductory section, which is really about making sure we can be prepared to lead the course, right? That study guide role. So we've got pages that are set up, but all of these templates are customizable. And I'll bring up an example here in a moment. But now we can see, it brought in our slides and our notes based off of the choices that we made. So with a few mouse clicks, and making some choices, we went from our PowerPoint. I think it was this one. We went from this to that, right? Simple enough to do. All right. So again, 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Your time's going to vary based off some choices, but it's very simple to do. And we'll move on from here. I don't want to keep banging on the same drum. So let's go in. Let's talk about that table of contents. How does that process work? So if we hop back over, and I'm going to get to the dialog box a different way, just so we can see it. I'm not going to start building out a whole new dialogue or a whole new document. But we're going to use our imagination hats, and let's say, we were bringing in from those PowerPoints, right? And this dialog box was showing us, here's all the PowerPoints that were currently open. So if you already have it open, you can select it out of the list. If it wasn't already opened, we could click cancel. It would give us open up a PowerPoint dialog box, choose the one you want, and then we would continue to our next one, which is this one that's showing us, it pulls up the PowerPoint so we can see it, and on the left-hand side of this dialog box, it shows us all the slides. So in my case, slide 1 through 9. What Leader Guide Pro allows us to do, and here I'll erase these out so you can kind of quickly see it. So we are able to go in as we're bringing, as the creation of our documents happening, I can put in modules and lessons as we go along. So all I would need to do is over on the right-hand side of the dialog box, type in what's going to be my first module name. And to us, modules and terminal objectives are the same. PowerPoint's topic, all of those would be at that same hierarchy. But I type in the name that I want, make sure the slide that I want that's falling underneath that module is. So highlight that, click the little green plus next to module, and what it has done is inserted in a meta tag called module name with the name of our module underneath it, and it automatically put in a lesson. So for us, a module cannot exist without a lesson. So if our modules are terminal objectives, all terminal objectives need to have at least one enabling objective. So whenever we put in a module, you have to have at least one lesson. So it prompts you with that. So it's got a name called new lesson, and I could now go in and build, because that tag already exists, I just need to replace the name. And so why I said this one is the one that takes the longest amount, or could take the longest amount of time, is as we're going through this, and as you click on the slide in the left-hand side of the dialog box, notice the PowerPoint's changing. Figuring out what that structure is and where, which slide goes to where, that is, that could take a little bit of time if you hadn't already done so. But a lot of times your PowerPoints are set up where where that happens. So you can quickly go through, and if this was going to be our next lesson, and I'll just call this housekeeping, I'd be able to go through and add in my new lesson, and now it would bring in the information based off of those. So once you have everything set up the way you wanted, you would click Save Changes. We're not going to move through to the, I'm not rebuilding one, but normally as you went through, it would then go, take you to the last dialog box about bringing, making the choices about image quality and image type, and it would bring all those over. But this is, that table of contents, right? If I'm in my facilitator guide, let me jump back to it. Oh, wrong. Chose the wrong one. I'm going to go back to my table of contents. All right, if we look at this page, so what we're seeing here, obviously this is, these are all the different items that we're able to have as we're, all the different, the structure came right in based off what we had when we first built out this guidebook. All right. So questions at all on table of contents? All right, so let's quick, very high level. Again, most of this is going to be at 100,000 level or above, right? Big one was how quickly can we build out that guidebook? But so, right, I showed you one possible look, right? Where my images, and here, let's flip back to it. This one, right? If I scroll down into my materials, right? I chose to put my images into column 2. I put my notes beneath it, and I'm able, this was the possible look. But we have other choices about that. And again, that's where, these customizations come up. So let's go in. Let me open this up real quick. All right, so when we were starting off that guidebook, right, obviously we put in a course name, we put in a course ID, right? So sample guide, right? I can put in a course ID, whatever that is. We have choices of, is it a facilitator guide, is it a participant guide? By making those, is it looking at the facilitator templates, or is it only looking at the participant templates? And when I say templates, what do I mean? There is what we call the collection, where we're able to come down and choose, is it by default, or the preferred collection that's set is our Office 365 Colors collection, but I could mark custom, and I could drop it down, and out of the box you have 8 total collections you can choose from. All of them, they're using different icons to drive actions. I mean, the content blocks are the same, but the actions, the look and feel of the icons are different. Cover pages are different, but you can create your own. So you can have an instructor-led training collection, and you could have a virtual instructor-led collection, or you could have a collection for short courses versus long courses, because you've dialed in each of those individual templates, like what we saw, like the About This guide or the acknowledgements page or program preparation. All of those things can be dialed in to exactly what you need. So other ways we can customize it outside of into the individual templates, at the creation level, what are we choosing? Right? Are we looking, are we putting our image into column 1 versus column 2 versus column 3? So instead of having an icon in column 1, you could have a thumbnail, about a 1-inch thumbnail of your PowerPoint slide. Or your image could be in column 3 if you had a 3-column document. Right? And then depending on where we put our image, where do we want to put our notes? So it's kind of like that 1980s Choose Your Own Adventure book. The choices that we make are going to determine the outcome that comes out. Right? We also control when we're about to, when we're making it in that final dialog box, you can control the print quality by the pixels per inch, as well as the image format type, which really controls the size of the image. So how large does your Word document get as you're building, right? What are we bringing in? We brought in both slides and notes, but you could just do slides, or you could just do notes. So you can pick and choose, and in the orientation, we would talk about some of these other options about adding in specific blocks we want to have come in every time a slide comes in. And so you can really dial it in to your specific needs for that specific type of training you're building out. So that's, customization's huge other topic to get into, but just wanted to make you aware that it's not like you can only get this one look and feel. Like, we're giving you a tool that allows you to create to basically customize individual templates that the program's going to automate out and then feed stuff into. Obviously, there's boundaries you have to work within, but you can really dial it in so you can quickly and easily develop what you need. All right, so now let's look at this chunking out the slides and notes. And so I'm going to flip over to a book that I built out as an example to this. So let's hop over here. So I built this one out a little bit more beforehand, and we'll look at this in a few moments. But let's come down. I'm going to scroll down. I made the same choices when I built this out about, I put my images in column 2. I put my notes into a separate content block beneath. And what do I mean by content block? A content block, think of it like a table row that it has a specific visual cue that's driving a specific action. So on this one, when it comes in, you've got a PowerPoint notes content block, which basically means it brought over all the notes that were in your speaker notes section of your PowerPoint. It put them into these content blocks. But now we really want to break these things up into, like, I want my facilitator to say something. This is an activity that we're going to be doing. So the way that this works, let me zoom this in a little bit so we can see it better. When we want to insert in a content block, on the ribbon, up in the content block section, we have it broken up for instructor-led, and we have virtual instructor-led and some custom blocks. But we can drop down to get to all the different content blocks that are available. And the way these work, wherever your cursor is located, and so I currently have mine sitting in the bottom of the slide 3 content block. Wherever that cursor is, underneath where it is, it's going to insert in a content block when we choose it out of the list. So you can obviously go in and you can just insert in the content blocks you need, right? We could then, you could just start putting in all the information, typing in the information you want, but we just brought over all your slides and notes, right? So a lot of times your notes are filled out and maybe they're broken up in a way where you know where things are. So like here, like the role of a participant book, right? Maybe to me this is a key point. I can, highlight the text, drop down my list, choose the content block I wanted. And maybe I want to make this stand out, the role of the participant guide, right? And I'm able to now start quickly maneuvering the notes into other content blocks, apply the formatting that I need so that my guidebook can be at a glance, right? Notice I didn't delete out what I had selected because maybe I chose the wrong block or I needed it somewhere else. But if I was happy with it, I could just delete it out, and that maybe this one is going to be a say block, right? And so give myself a headline, and maybe these are a numbered list. And one of the templates that's part of the collection is a style guide, so we get to determine what fonts, what sizes, spaces before, text effects, all of those. And when we use the text and table formatting, I can quickly apply those. So I'm able to start taking my notes and breaking them out into individual actions, what we call content blocks. I'm going to say this, and then we're going to talk about this key point, and then we're going to run an activity, and then we're going to show this slide. And so this is a way we can quickly start maneuvering our items over. I'm going to just quickly jump back here to kind of a cleaned up view and show you. So here's a couple pages I built out before, and this is actually you saw as the image earlier. But we can now, you can mix and match. Is it a 2-column? Is it a 3-column document? Within it, so that, like on this one where we're showing this slide. So when slide 1's being shown, I've got instructions for the facilitator to pay attention to over in column 3, but they don't need to tell the class about that. If you, we can give notes. You can really just dial it in. And I just see Leslie just asked a question about if you needed to move a slide. So it depends. There's a couple ways. It is an easy process. As an example, just to show you, one would be if you were just looking to move, like let's say we wanted to actually slide 4 to happen after we said something like, but before we talked about the key point of the role of the participant book. So it's still staying in the same slide order, right? Slide 1 through however many. We could do that. So to move that, I would just put your cursor into the slide block that you want to move, and then it's Alt-Shift, and either the up arrow or the down arrow will move the entire row up or down. So we can just move it with where you need it to go within those content blocks. The one item I'd say with that, as long as you're still keeping the same numerical order of your slides, that works. If the slides changed, so let's hop over, I'm going to flip over to my PowerPoint real quick, which is here. Right, so let's, just as an example, let's say slide 1 was now actually going to be slide 2, and what was slide 2 is now slide 1. If that was if that was the movement that was going to happen, right? You've rearranged the order of slides in your deck. What I would end up doing, make the changes in your PowerPoint, and then when we go back into your Leader Guide Pro documents, what we're able to do under the special section, I can do what's known as a replace. And this is, are you replacing PowerPoints or Keynote slides? I'm going to click yes for PowerPoints. Again, we're prompted, here it's showing us PowerPoints are open. So it's best practice to have that PowerPoint already open. So we'd select it out of there, click OK. And now it takes us right to this last dialog box. And when we do a replace, we can only bring over our slides or our notes at one time. If you had to do both, you would do it twice. But more than often, you're just going to be replacing your slides. And I can replace all of them or a selective range. So I'm going to do all of them. I'll click OK. And this is just double checking that the image is going to be going into column 2. If it wasn't, I'd click no, and I could change it over. I wanted to put it into column 3 or into column 1. But we're going to keep it in column 2. And it's going to run through the document real quick. Update all our slides. We'll see action completed successfully at the bottom of that dialog box, which quickly disappeared. And now I'm just going to scroll up real quick, because the only change I made was to that slide 1 and slide 2. Notice that was my cover slide is now slide 2. There's slide 1. So 2 easy ways to do it. And with the training, with the new user orientation, we can go into that in deeper. But that's the idea of, obviously, one, replacing slides, which is great. I wasn't even thinking of covering that today, but I'm glad we could. But then also, how do we break up the notes into specific chunks, right? Again, we can just highlight specific items, right? So like, let's say this wasn't a learning objective, but it was going to be, a highlight. I can, quickly put in something that I need to go like that. And I'm able to go through all this. So that's the idea of chunking information out. Last thing I wanted to kind of get into today, we are going to be doing a prize drawing. We are in the process of, we're about to release an updated product called Author Tech. We previously had it, but it was much smaller. It's really a tool about authoring. It's about writing. So it gives us a whole series of items within Word. And here, let me quickly pop back here. We'll come to here. So in what AuthorTech is on the ribbon, right, we've got AuthorTech. It's 18 individual tools that you're able to help you do certain things like you can create lists of specific words or phrases or adjectives. You want to find all the adjectives in your document. We can do things like that for find and highlight. We've got tools to help you insert pictures, documents and pictures into existing text. So AuthorTech can exist outside of LeaderGuide Pro. It's a great sibling program to it, but one of the big changes we've done to it is we've actually now incorporated into it the program Scripter, as well as our program George, which is our PowerPoint add-on. So now our AuthorTech tool is going to give you access to not only the 18 items within, I think it's 16 items within AuthorTech itself, plus Scripter and George gets us up to 18. So that's going to be our drawing. We're just about to make this available to everybody. So the winner, I guess by the end of the week, you'll have access to the first the first running of it. So again, I've got my kids bingo thing. So we'll just spin this up real quick, and it kicked us out a winner. And it looks like, let me see, who do I write? And so basically, I took everybody's name who registered for the event today. I wrote that down. So if you can read this, Samantha Farr, I will send you an email with everything. So congratulations on being the big winner tonight. So just as a recap, obviously we looked at building out a facilitator guide, and I noticed now one of my things is kind of not centered, so I apologize about that. We created that facilitator guide in 5 minutes. Actually, I think 3 minutes and 19 seconds, 3 minutes 17, depending on the clock we went by, right? Showed you a little bit about how we can customize out the table of contents so that when we bring in our slides, our table of contents is already in place, our structure is already in place. Talked a little bit about very, very high level things that you're able to customize so you can dial it into exactly what you need. Showed you a little bit quickly on how we can break out our slides and our notes. And then Samantha, congratulations again on winning the access to AuthorTech for, we're going to get you, a month free access to this. And just know we are going to be doing some promotions coming up for everybody on with the release of AuthorTech. So there is the QR code here. If you guys scan it either off the video, if you do it right now, it's going to bring up our events page. But this will take you right to all the different items that are all the different upcoming events that we have. But we're going to have some giveaways coming up. Making sure you signed in, joined our mailing list, right? Subscribe to YouTube channels and LinkedIn channels, all those different things. The more of those that you'll do, you get the ability to then, better chances to win some of these giveaways that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be sending out to you guys coming up. So my goal of 20 to 25 minutes didn't hit that one today, so I apologize about that. I see we're at 35 minutes for today. So I'd love to give you some time back in your day. Thank you for joining us. Our next one of these showcases is going to be on the 31st. Off the top of my head, at the moment, I can't quite remember. But scan this code, right, and that will take you right to the events page, and you'll be able to sign up and register. The recordings of the events are also going to be up on, or of the prior ones are already on there. And then the next day or so, let's say 3 days, just to give myself some time, we'll get this one up there as well. But again, any questions that come up, please let us know, and have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right, take care.